August 23rd, 1944. Just after dawn. Somewhere outside Chartres, France. The air already smells of dust and hot metal. Engines rumble without moving an inch, hundreds of them, idling tanks, half-tracks, trucks packed nose to tail along a narrow French road. American soldiers sit on helmets and ration crates, watching the sun climb higher, waiting for an order that doesn't come. Not forward. Not back. Just waiting. You can almost feel the tension buzzing through the column like static. The Third Army has been advancing for weeks without pause, smashing through German positions so fast that maps are outdated within hours. Villages fall before sunrise. Crossroads are taken before German commanders even know they exist. This is George S. Patton's war now. And Patton doesn't slow down. But this morning, something is wrong. A Sherman tank commander leans out of his hatch and looks back down the road. No fuel trucks, not one. His gauge needle trembles just above empty. Another mile, maybe two, and then the engine dies. Across northern France, the same quiet panic is spreading. The Third Army is running out of gasoline. Not low. Out. Patton stands beside his command car, ivory-handled pistols on his hips, staring at a map that no longer makes sense. Red grease pencil arrows stretch eastward like spears, toward the Seine, toward the German border, toward history itself. He has done the impossible. Now the impossible has caught him. His armored divisions have advanced so fast since the Normandy breakout that they've torn free from their own supply lines. Fuel depots sit hundreds of miles behind them. Railways are shattered. Ports are still in Allied hands far to the west. Every gallon of gasoline must arrive by truck, and there are not enough trucks in France to feed a monster like the Third Army. Patton turns to his staff, jaw tight. "Hell," he mutters, "my men could take Berlin if I had the gasoline." But gasoline is exactly what he doesn't have. By nightfall, entire divisions are immobilized. Tanks dug in not for defense, but because they can't move. Recon units report German forces retreating in chaos just beyond reach. The enemy is escaping, not because he's stronger, but because Patton cannot chase him. And that to Patton is unbearable. He fires message after message up the chain of command, demands, threats, promises of victory if only someone will feed his army. The replies are cautious, bureaucratic, slow. Somewhere behind the lines, planners are arguing over tonnage tables and priorities. Patton explodes. But the war does not run on rage. It runs on logistics. And deep in the rear areas of France, far from the frontline glory, one quiet officer is staring at the same crisis and seeing something very different. Colonel John S.D. Eisenhower. No dramatic speeches. No pistols. No shouting. He is the son of a Kansas family, methodical by nature, trained to think in columns, routes, and margins. While Patton dreams in arrows and breakthroughs, Eisenhower dreams in numbers: how many trucks, how many gallons, how many hours before an army starves. On August 23rd, Eisenhower receives the figures. They are catastrophic. The Third Army requires over 400,000 gallons of gasoline per day to continue its advance. What it is receiving is barely a fraction of that. At this rate, Patton's entire force will grind to a halt within 48 hours. Not because of German resistance. Because of empty tanks. Eisenhower doesn't panic. He does something far more dangerous. He decides to ignore the system. The Allied supply network was never designed for speed like this. It was built for careful, phased advances, beachhead to port, port to rail, rail to depot. Patton has shattered that model. He is moving faster than the war plan itself. So Eisenhower begins asking an unthinkable question. What if we stop waiting for infrastructure? What if we move everything now? That night, he meets with logistics officers and transportation planners. Maps are spread across wooden tables under dim lights. Cigarette smoke curls toward the ceiling. They talk about trucks. Thousands of them. Cargo trucks meant for ammunition, for rations, for spare parts, all scattered across Normandy and Brittany. Eisenhower proposes stripping them of their assignments. All of them. No schedules. No rotations. No rest. Just movement. A non-stop river of vehicles driving day and night, carrying fuel forward as fast as human endurance allows. Someone finally says it aloud. That would violate every supply doctrine we have. Eisenhower nods. Yes, he says quietly, but doctrine won't win us this war. The plan is radical, borderline reckless. Trucks will run 24 hours a day. Drivers will sleep beside the road when they collapse. Military police will clear routes exclusively for supply movement. No civilian traffic. No delays. If a truck breaks down, it's pushed aside and left. The road itself will become the supply line. They give it a name almost jokingly at first. The Red Ball Express. Red circles painted on signposts to mark the route. Follow the red ball. Don't stop. Don't turn. Don't ask questions. Just drive. Within hours, orders ripple outward. Drivers are woken in the middle of the night. You're moving now. They climb into cabs still smelling of old canvas and gasoline. Engines cough awake. Headlights blink on, then are quickly covered to slits. The convoy begins to form. Hundreds of trucks. Then thousands. African-American truck units, the backbone of the transportation corps, line up wheel to wheel. Many of these men have never been under fire. Tonight, they'll be driving straight toward it. As the first vehicles roll forward, Eisenhower watches silently. There is no guarantee this will work. No safety net. If the convoys fail, Patton's army stalls. The Germans regroup. The window of opportunity slams shut. France could turn into another grinding war of attrition. And Patton, the man moving faster than any general in Europe, will be forced to stop. The engines grow louder. The road east fills with dust. Somewhere far ahead, Patton is still waiting for fuel that hasn't arrived. He doesn't yet know that an entire army of drivers is racing toward him through the dark, gambling exhaustion, machines, and lives on a single, desperate idea. And within the next 24 hours, everything will change. The trucks begin moving before midnight. Not in neat formations. Not in parade lines. They roll out in long, uneven convoys, canvas sides flapping, engines straining under the weight of gasoline drums stacked so high they sway on turns. Each vehicle carries enough fuel to keep a tank company alive for a few precious hours. It isn't much, but it's everything. Drivers grip their steering wheels as the French countryside slides past in darkness. Headlights are reduced to thin slits of light. Barely enough to see the road ahead. One mistake, one wrong curve, and a truck could plunge into a ditch, taking thousands of gallons of gasoline with it. You can almost hear the nerves inside those cabs. Many of the men driving tonight belong to segregated African-American transportation units. They wear no tankers' jackets, no airborne wings. Their war isn't glamorous, but tonight it is deadly. German aircraft still roam the skies. Stray fighter bombers dive on convoys whenever they find them. A single burst of machine gun fire could turn a gasoline truck into a rolling bomb. Still, the trucks keep going. Military police stand at crossroads waving pistols, forcing civilian traffic aside. Red ball signs, hastily painted circles nailed to trees and buildings, glow faintly in lantern light. Follow the red ball. Don't stop. Don't look back. Within hours, the road becomes a living thing. Engines roar without pause. The smell of fuel hangs so thick it burns the throat. Broken down vehicles are shoved into ditches and abandoned. No repairs, no recovery. The convoy cannot slow for anything. Some drivers haven't slept in 30 hours. They chew coffee grounds, splash water on their faces, sing to stay awake. When exhaustion hits, they pull off the road for 10 minutes, just long enough not to crash, then climb back behind the wheel. The Red Ball Express is not a system. It's survival. By morning, Eisenhower receives the first reports. Fuel is moving. Not enough yet, but more than anyone thought possible. He calculates the numbers again and again, pencil scratching across paper. Every hour counts. If the flow increases, Patton might be able to move. If it falters, the advance dies. At the front, Patton is packing. He storms between vehicles, boots crunching gravel, demanding updates that no one can give him. German units are retreating in disarray just beyond reach. Intelligence reports show enemy bridges still intact, targets begging to be seized. But the tanks sit silent. Then shortly after noon, a shout echoes down the road. Fuel trucks. Men run. Dust clouds rise on the horizon. The first Red Ball convoy barrels into the Third Army staging area, brakes screaming. Drivers jump down, exhausted, eyes red, uniforms soaked with sweat and grime. Gasoline drums hit the ground. Hoses connect. Engines cough, then roar back to life. Patton watches the scene with something close to awe. It isn't enough to launch a full offensive. Not yet, but it's enough to move, enough to chase, enough to keep pressure on a fleeing enemy. He turns to his staff. "We're not stopping," he says, "not now." The advance resumes slowly at first, then faster as more trucks arrive. Behind the scenes, Eisenhower pushes harder. He expands the routes, adds parallel roads, doubles the flow. What was meant to last a few days becomes a full-scale logistical gamble. By the second night, over 6,000 trucks are on the road. Day and night. Rain begins to fall, turning dirt roads into mud. Vehicles skid, engines overheat, drivers crash from exhaustion. Still, the convoys keep coming. Each delivery buys Patton another mile. Each mile denies the Germans time. German commanders begin to notice something deeply unsettling. American armored columns that should be halted, should be immobile, are still advancing. Again and again. They cannot understand how. Their own logistics are collapsing. Fuel shortages cripple their retreat. Yet the Americans appear fueled by an invisible source, as if the road itself is feeding them. What the Germans don't see is the cost. Men sleeping beside their trucks, drivers shaking from fatigue, accidents buried quietly so the flow never slows. The Red Ball Express is burning people out to keep an army alive. And Eisenhower knows it cannot last forever. Trucks are wearing down, engines are failing, men are reaching the edge. But he also knows something else. Every hour the Third Army moves is an hour the Germans cannot regroup. Every gallon delivered is a step closer to the Rhine. Then, late on the third day, a message arrives from Patton's headquarters. Short, blunt. Fuel received. Advance continuing at full speed. Eisenhower allows himself a rare moment of relief. They've done it. Against doctrine, against probability, against exhaustion. They've turned logistics into a weapon. But as the convoys push deeper into France, a new danger begins to surface, one that threatens to shatter the entire miracle in a single strike. German pilots have begun targeting the Red Ball routes. And the road that never slept is about to become a battlefield. The first attack comes just after sunrise. A low whine cuts through the morning air, sharp, mechanical, wrong. Drivers look up. Too late. A German Focke-Wulf fighter drops out of the clouds and screams down the road, machine guns flashing. Bullets stitch the dirt beside the convoy. One truck swerves, clips the shoulder, and erupts into flame, a towering column of black smoke and fire. The road halts for seconds. Only seconds. Military police wave pistols and shout drivers forward, forcing trucks to steer around the burning wreck. The flames are still rising as the convoy moves past. No one stops. They can't, because every stopped truck is a tank that won't move tonight. Word spreads fast. The Germans have found the Red Ball Express. Soon attacks multiply, strafing runs, roadblocks, ambushes by retreating units desperate to slow the American tide. Fuel trucks become prime targets. One well-placed burst can destroy days of effort. And yet the convoys keep rolling. Drivers begin mounting machine guns on truck beds. Some ride shotgun with rifles across their knees. They learn to scatter at the sound of aircraft, diving into ditches while engines burn behind them. Still, they return to the road. At Eisenhower's headquarters, the reports stack up. Losses mounting, vehicles destroyed, men wounded or missing. He does not stop the flow. He cannot. If the Red Ball Express breaks now, the entire Third Army collapses behind it. Patton, meanwhile, is unleashed. With fuel finally flowing, his armored columns surge eastward. German rear guards are brushed aside. Bridges are seized before demolition charges can be fired. Enemy units retreat in panic, convinced they're being encircled. The speed is relentless. So relentless that German commanders begin issuing orders based on rumors rather than reconnaissance. Patton is everywhere, one officer reportedly says. He is. But the fuel makes it feel that way. Every mile Patton advances increases the distance the Red Ball must cover. What began as a supply run of dozens of miles becomes hundreds. Trucks are now driving nearly round-trip without rest. Men collapse at the wheel. Some never wake. Eisenhower knows the math is breaking down, machines wearing out faster than they can be replaced, tires shredded, engine seized, spare parts non-existent. This miracle has an expiration date. Then near the end of August, the worst news arrives. The Germans are forming a defensive line near the Moselle River. If they hold it, Patton's momentum dies. If he breaks through, the road to Germany opens. But breaking through requires fuel more than ever before. Eisenhower faces a decision. He can preserve his trucks or gamble everything on one final push. He chooses the gamble. All available transport is diverted forward. Ration trucks, ammunition trucks, even vehicles marked for other armies are rerouted. The Red Ball Express swells beyond anything originally planned. The system screams under the strain. But the fuel reaches Patton. On August 31st, Third Army units smash into German positions before they are fully prepared. The enemy retreats again, shocked, confused, outpaced. The gamble works. Barely. When Eisenhower finally orders the Red Ball Express scaled back in September, the numbers are staggering. Over 12,000 tons of supplies moved every day. Thousands of miles driven per truck. Countless drivers pushed beyond human limits. The advance of the Third Army, one of the fastest in military history, had not been won by tanks alone. It had been carried on the backs of men who never fired a shot. Men whose names would never appear in victory headlines. As Patton's forces roll to a halt near the German border, he finally understands what truly powered his advance. Not brilliance, not speed, but gasoline delivered by men who refused to stop driving. And somewhere behind the lines, Colonel John S.D. Eisenhower closes his ledger and exhales. The miracle is over. The war moves on. but for one brief, extraordinary moment in August 1944. An entire army outran its own supply line and lived.